Welcome back to the Anderson Healey Show from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. I'm Tim Healey, the radio play-by-play broadcaster for ASU football, men's basketball, and baseball, and your host for our weekly get-togethers alongside of Arizona State Athletic Director Ray Anderson. Our next guest on this week's show is in his second season of his second tour of duty at Arizona State and his first season as the full-time head coach of the Sun Devil cross-country program. As the program's interim head coach 1 year ago, he helped lead his ASU distance runners to 14 personal best times and multiple notable finishes and looks to build on that success this year. We're happy to welcome Coach Ryan Ray to the Anderson Healey Show. Ryan, it's great to see you, bud.
Nice to meet you, Tim. Pleasure.
Thanks for coming on with us. How would you describe where your program is now this year compared to, say, 12 months ago at this time?
Yeah, well, it's really coming along. We've lost some low sticks in cross country. The old way of scoring was with popsicle sticks. So the top runner would get a low stick, and then you count as you long. And we lost those low sticks.
Right.
But the rest of the team has really stepped up, done a lot of great training, and with evidence of how we started at George Kyte, we're in a really good spot. Really excited about it.
What have been your points of emphasis with your men and women this fall? I read a quote, an article on the team where one of your runners was basically talking about how much she appreciates the attention to detail that you provide your runners.
Yeah, absolutely. The old saying is the people without a vision will perish. And so coming on board last year and taking over the team, there has been a little bit of inconsistency with our coaches, a lot of high turnover. Great kids, though, and they just needed that consistency in the detail. I was lucky and blessed to grow up with a father who's really successful and taught me the way. Mm-hmm. And I've been under a lot of great coaches as well. Corey Immels at Boise State and Pat Henner that was here before. And details is very important when it comes to the training. So you get the details in, you're consistent with the training, then things start to take off.
You mentioned your dad, Irv Ray, just an outstanding distance coach. He mentored many All-Americans and Olympic champions during his time. What are some of the ways he's influenced you in terms of the way you coach?
Yeah, well, going back to the details, having your X's and O's in place, knowing the true how to execute the training plan, knowing the X's and O's, but also coaching the whole athlete. Is where things really get special. Yeah. So, learning from him, he coached, American record holders, several U.S. champions, and so that, for lack of a better word, the X's and O's, the training is crucial. But coaching the whole athlete, especially with today and age, with our student athletes today, that's when things start to get special.
Yeah. As Ryan referenced a moment ago, his team has already competed once. The Saturday of Labor Day weekend, the Sun Devils took part in the George Kyte Invitational up in Flagstaff, Arizona, competing against their rivals from the Grand Canyon State, NAU, the University of Arizona, and Grand Canyon, and competing at 7,000 feet as the elevation in Flagstaff, and NAU, a powerhouse cross-country program. That had to have been a good experience just to have your kids compete in those conditions against that kind of competition.
Yeah, unbelievable experience. Very grateful Coach Mike Smith and NAU to invite us up. It's kind of like the Arizona State Championship. Several community colleges from Arizona, D3, NEI schools, and then all the D1 schools come and compete. It is not easy. It's 7,000 feet. Our team did well, training hard over the summer, and they were able to, they came up there and they competed very well.
Did you have to go up a few days early to acclimate, or talk about your athletes being able to compete at that altitude, which is not something that they're accustomed to because they're usually training at about sea level, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a big change, and actually they found out years ago, a couple years ago, that the best way to do it is to go the day of.
Really?
If you start going even 24 hours in advance, the body starts producing more red blood cells, which creates fatigue, headache.
Wow.
And so if you go the day of, we literally showed up 90 minutes before the race.
Wow. Just bust up that day?
Bust up that day and had a really good day. So it worked out for us.
That's interesting because when we've competed in sports, football and men's basketball at the University of Colorado, it's funny to note how often they make note of the fact that you're at 5,280 feet altitude in Boulder.
Yep.
They try to. It's basically their home field advantage.
Home field advantage. Yeah, I'll tell you what. The NAU team's ranked number 2 in the nation, and they certainly look like that up there at 7,000 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great to compete with them, and in fact, a couple of our ladies scored in the top 10 and beat some of their top 7 girls.
Yeah, in fact, one of them, junior Claire DeGaio, finished 6th in the women's competition, and you had a man, Jonathan Estrada, a Desert Vista High School product, who finished 6th among the men. So you had some pretty good finishers up there.
We did. Yeah, Johnny stepped up big time. He's only a sophomore, like you said, local product from Desert Vista. Very exciting. You know, Johnny wasn't a high-level runner out of high school. Well, he wasn't elite, right? To see him come in the program and make adjustments, get the training underneath him, and see him come back this summer and beat guys that beat him in high school.
Wow.
And then to go and compete with the top boys at NAU was pretty special. And then Claire, what can I say? You know, this is a girl from Washington who there's a transition of the freshman year was hard for her. I wasn't here at the time. And then her sophomore year was slow transition, but it shows you time after time, you buy into the program, you put in the work, special things can happen. So we saw huge PRs from them. It was really great.
What a great way for them to get their season started. Tell us about some of your other runners, kids that you think will be impact performers in your program this year.
Sure. So on the women's side, Sadie Harenga, she's a transfer from Calvin College. She's a PhD student here for the biology department. She's very busy, great young lady. She will be a major impact player for us as long as Mia Chavez. Mia's a transfer from University of Arizona. So we got the Wildcat up here. She, out of high school, she was top 10 in the nation in the 1600 and the 800. Highly ranked, highly sought after. And yeah, both those ladies will make a big difference for us.
You mentioned Mia being a transfer from the University of Arizona. I know a fellow by the name of Ryan Ray who coached one year at the University of Arizona.
Yes, sir.
What was it, the 2021 academic year, I believe it was. What was that? I mean, you had been here, you go there, you come back here. Was there any degree of weirdness to all that, or what?
Yeah, you know, I will say when I was here, I was a volunteer coach. And then I was so grateful to Coach Harvey and Coach Bernard Legat to give me my first full-time job. I went down there. Loved my experience down there. Great community. I know we're not supposed to love our enemies of the South too much, but my experience was pretty special. Was able to recruit a lot of high-level athletes. Learned a lot. Had success coaching on my own, and Coach Dion Miller called me in August of last year and said, "Do you want to come on back?"
Yeah.
You know, I love ASU. I want to be a Sun Devil for life, so I was like, absolutely, I want to come back.
Well, you know, there is a history. There are some folks who have coached at both schools in various sports. Our good friend Vince Amy, a former terrific Arizona State football player, ended up as a coach down at the University of Arizona in football for a while and is now back here coaching at ASU on the staff of Kenny Dillingham. And conversely, former Ohio State and NFL running back Scotty Graham was a longtime athletics administrator here at ASU, and he wanted to get into coaching, and he's now on the football staff of Jed Fish down at the U of A. So they're
a little back and forth.
You know, you're part of a list. There have been guys that have done both. What are your goals for your program at Arizona State this year, Ryan?
You know, in a sense, when coming into this year, I truly thought it was going to be a rebuild year. Not a lot of recruiting was taking place before I took on, and I thought, hey, that's okay. We're going to coach up these kids. We're going to love on them and help them become great athletes and great student athletes. The women have stepped up. Really happy, really proud of them. I think our number one goal, as always, is to beat Arizona. So we go down to Dave Murray at the end of the month.
That's right.
And try to beat them again.
That's your next competition, I think September 29th.
That's correct, yeah. You know, Arizona State hasn't beaten Arizona, men or women, since 2016, down at Dave Murray. So if we can go down there and get a win, it'd be fantastic. But just compete well, be good competitors, appreciate those that we compete against, and just to grow and learn. I think on the women's side, we can go on to regionals, the first rounds of NCAA championships, and do well. And on the guys' side, you know, it's come together, encourage each other, run for each other in practice, and see what we can put something special together. Because when you do that, when you run for each other, you train hard, things can really turn out well. So that's what I'm looking forward to them.
Well, it's great to have you back home at Arizona
Yes.
State, and we wish you and your team the best this year.
Thank you so much.
That's Sun Devil head coach Ryan Ray, the head coach of the Sun Devil cross country team, our guest on the Anderson Healey Show. Ray will rejoin me for the final segment of this week's show in just a moment.